One, two, three. I am he, as he is he, and you are me, and we are all together. See how they run from pigs from a gun? I'm crying. All right, guys, good morning. Hopefully, you've gotten started on your Christmas shopping, uh, or someone has been doing it for you. And I hope you're staying warm because where I'm at, it is 25 degrees outside. And what better time? What better time to be talking and being around comic books? And right on cue, we have John is in the chat here. Good morning, John. So right off the bat, if John is our cue there to go ahead and ask you guys to be sure you're subscribed. I got about 33% of people watching my videos going way back. Thank you very much. Apparently, my favorite Legion of Superhero stories. Apparently, that's a biggie. That thing just keeps churning along, 3 or 4 views at a time every day. And I think it's got to be like 9 years old, 8 or 9 years old. But anyway, did not mean to travel on there. But anyway, make sure that you are subscribed, hit the bell so you know when we do these live shows because with the weather that's going on in the winter months, I'm going to be on here quite a bit. Last weekend, I ended up on here twice. I'll comment on that before we get to the comics and stuff. And yeah, I appreciate it. Give it a like, give it a share. I appreciate the people who have been sharing the shows. It's great. Appreciate it, man. For a tiny little channel that has been around for 15 years. I have been collecting comics for 48 years now. Um, and for it to still have some life to it, that is fantastic. And I appreciate it. Right. Um, there is such a backlog of videos that I've done. Some are more informative than others. Some are like a college class in comics history, biographies of fictional characters, behind the scenes grapevine news and histories of creators and the stories that they were there. There's so much there to dig through. That is great. That stuff keeps kicking, and I appreciate it. So last week, if you are a subscriber and you have hit that bell, you were not imagining things. I did do 2 shows and I took it down because I did not realize my behavior in it. Right? Nothing. It was nothing controversial, nothing bad. But I did a Stranger Things review. Stranger Things is in its 5th season. It debuted Thanksgiving, at least here in the States, on Netflix. My wife is a huge fan. I like the show. There's seasons 1 and 4 are my favorite, and I try to do a review of the episodes, the 4 episodes that they put up on Thanksgiving. And man, it I did not realize it was going to turn into an hour of me just blistering it. Okay, so I took the video down, the live show down. I watched a few minutes of it. I was just sort of like, wow, talk about an old man screaming at the clouds. But the problem is the arguments and the criticisms that I had were actually pretty balanced in there with why I think it was they really stumbled. They really stumbled getting this 5th season going, in my opinion. I think it was just the delivery and the length. I could have just like probably done 10 minutes instead of 60 minutes. So that rarely happens, but I think that's what I'm saying. I can call myself out. I can call myself out and just be as harsh to me as I can with anything else that I ended up not liking. All right. So as we sit here on a Sunday afternoon, going into the afternoon, 25 degrees outside, a little bit of snow, I decided to go Christmas shopping yesterday while I was by myself. If you go back a few weeks on this channel, you will see that there was a comic book show in the Mercer Mall. Now, if you are in the Virginia, North Carolina, West Virginia, even Tennessee area, if you draw a circle around where all those states sort of meet, the person who was running the show in the Mercer Mall in, I guess that's Bluefield, West Virginia. I live on the Virginia side. This was the first time they had it. It was in the very end of a mall that's been around since about 81, I think that's when it was built. It's amazing that it's still kicking. In the 80s, of course, when malls were, the ultimate, and there are still malls out there that are the ultimate. This is the one that had the bookstore. I'm trying to think what it was originally called, and I cannot believe that going blank. But as a kid around 1980, gosh, I want to say it's like maybe 82 or something. I can remember going into this bookstore, Walden Books, that's what it was called. And they had the spinner rack, and I was able to see something like New Teen Titans number 24, 25. They were off in space. And I remember the splash page for decades. I was glad to finally find that book. Going up into the 80s, I was able to get Sandman number 6 there, 6 or 7. I feel like it was number 7, number 6. It's probably definitely number 6. It was the diner, I think. Well, anyway, no. Oh my gosh, I'm getting old. It was Sandman number 7. It was the last chapter of the Preludes and Nocturnes. I also got Elementals number 3, volume 2, and that was when you were. That's when I finally found out alternative comics of the time. They were called alternative comics at the time. Had those mature themes, and you feel like you were reading something that you weren't supposed to. Walden's, thank you, John. There's a Walden's books. That's it, absolutely. So anyway, so this mall and I have history. I could tell tales there of things that have happened there. Actually, about 10 years ago, they had they had 10 years ago, I actually sold a bunch of my action figures and toys there. Probably 2014, 2016, they had another little show there. And these are very small shows where a dealer, I was going through his comics and he recognized me because this channel was actually bigger back then. And he was like, don't work yourself to death there, Haller. I've already gone through it. There's nothing really in there that's going to be worth much. And as he is saying this, I was actually about to tell him I found a Spawn number 1 signed by Todd McFarlane. And when I went back a little bit, I found another Spawn number 1, and it was actually signed by Al Simmons, the real Al Simmons. That is for you guys that don't know, that's the alter ego, the real name of Spawn in the books, if you will, right? That Todd McFarlane sort of based the character, took inspiration for the character from his college roommate, the real Al Simmons, who didn't want to tour with him. So there's always little gems out there to see and stuff like that. Sorry, man, just getting a little coffee there to keep us going there, right? So anyway, I go there to go Christmas shopping. I actually find something that my wife wants, and I actually ended up giving it to her last night because I didn't really, I don't know, I went around and I just wasn't feeling anything that's going to be a thoughtful gift, right? And as I kept going down into the mall, getting further into the mall, I looked up and all of a sudden I saw the lights on in the abandoned roses. Okay, that used to be a Hills back in the day. Then it was the roses, and it might have been something else. If you remember Hills back in the day. And I see this little kid running around. And I'm like, oh my God. And as I get closer, I actually see comic book boxes on the table, and they're back. What happened? It turns out that apparently the show, I don't know if it was considered a success or if the powers that be with the mall wanted something going on, that they called the person who ran the show and asked him to go ahead and can you do it again on short notice? So apparently he got on there, called a lot of people up, and a lot of the same people were able to show up, but some of the people actually brought different comics this time, even though I bought off of them. So that's where we're at with it. I was under a surprise. I was probably there about 30 minutes, and then I continued to go Christmas shopping and stuff, right? But it was just so weird to fall backwards into a little comic show. It was a lot of toys and things like that, right? A lot of toys that a lot of the people had. Now, before we get into those, I don't know if you like Spider-Man, and one of these is a little bit beat up. I didn't get a discount on it. But I talk a lot about Ollie's Outlet. Over the last few weeks of being out and about, I have ordered a comic. I actually got it off eBay pretty cheap, and then I found these at Ollie's. And I just was sort of like, okay, it's a payday. I'm going to go ahead and get these. But one of the things I got at Ollie's and for an amazing price is, yes, this is open. I should have grabbed one while it was sealed. But someone had opened it in the store, and we have the 2023 printing of the Marvel Masterworks of the Amazing Spider-Man. This is volume 1. It is Amazing Fantasy number 15, which of course is that classic Jack Kirby cover of the first appearance of Spider-Man. And then it goes through the actual Amazing Spider-Man numbers 1 through 10. Yes, Stan Lee's name is on it. As time has gone by, we'll just call it what it is. Stan Lee's name is indeed on it. But everybody has always felt like this was pure Steve Ditko. Who knows, right? But anyway, if I'm going to read Spider-Man, I really cannot read a lot of the modern stuff. Uh, it does not feel organic. It feels rehashed. It feels like stunts. It feels like Spider-Man has been stunted since a brand new day, and that's 2 decades ago. If you write a decade and a half ago and stuff, right? A little bit over that. I mean, it's closer to 20 years than 15 years, right? So if you're going to read Spider-Man, I say start at the beginning and get 100% pure cut Spider-Man, where it all began. High school student, orphaned, um, has the guilt. He got the calling to be a superhero due to the death of a loved one that he felt he was he was responsible for. It's amazing how this story actually is sort of ingrained in pop culture. It's sort of like Batman, Superman, and then Spider-Man. Even if people aren't into comics, they get the gist of that origin. Bitten by a radioactive spider. His uncle Ben died, and I feel like it's Batman, Superman, Spider-Man with the pop culture people that know things. I feel like maybe people know about the Hulk. I don't know. I don't have the perspective, right? So we have Volume One, and these masterworks. If I go by what's going on online, from what I've seen on Facebook, apparently they have decided to. God, they putting out these. They've been doing Masterwork series since what, guys? Like 1987 or something. They're beautiful, beautiful paper, beautiful printings. They don't have the ads and stuff, right? They stick strictly to the comic, the art. No ads, no letter columns, no editorials. The coloring just pops in this black and white world we live in at times. Those shades of gray. It's kind of nice to have the four colors pop up to really brighten your day. But yeah, 100% pure. Anyway, I think they discontinued the Marvel Masterworks series. I also think that's, if I was to be a observant man, whether it means anything or not, let's not put that there. I think it's, didn't they also, you know, get rid of the cancel the Ultimate line? They brought back the Ultimate line of comics at Marvel, and now supposedly they have canceled these. And I saw someone complaining online about it, and I kind of felt their pain because apparently the Marvel Masterworks series that is, if it is indeed canceled, if I'm going by my Facebook news here, right? They were one issue away, or whatever, one printing away of finishing Tomb of Dracula. So apparently there's someone who had been getting Tomb of Dracula in the Masterworks series, and they found out that when they canceled this, they would not get the final volume. That's a pisser, right? So they also had volume two, and as you can see, it's a $75 value. This was $17. All right, I just went ahead and pulled the trigger on it because these were they're I was there last week. I was there another night. They are slowly, actually being bought up, and they have a lot of garbage there at Ollie's that no one is touching. They actually have a Captain Marvel omnibus of the 2000 teens, the Kelly Sue DeConnick stuff or something, right? That stuff's been there forever. Nobody's touching it. They have a She-Hulk series from somewhere in the last 10 years. Nobody's touching that. They have trades that no one is touching it, right? What surprised me is that there are two trades of the Black Panther that are there. One trade had a absolute monster of a writer, the way he acted online. So I get why that one was not selling. But the other one, I don't know. But anyway, people are getting these, right? And Ollie's used to give you 75% to 90% off of the total, right? So there was a day where this would have been between we'll say $5 and $10. They recently, in the last couple of months, I heard the radio spot on the news where they were saying there were going to be more comparable, more, what is the word? I guess, yeah, I think it was comparable. I believe that was the word to other stores like Walmart and stuff. Even though they're an outlet that gets stuff from Target and Wally World, Walmart, and things like that, they're going to go ahead and try to be a bit more comparable with their prices. And yeah, I've seen it. The other things that have not been selling there that really surprises me are they had the Black Panther toys from the last movie. Oh God, what was the other one? And Shang-Chi, they are trying to sell those toys for $1. Those Marvel toys have not been moving. They've had the same toys there forever. Yes, some of the toys are selling, but it seems like anything to do with Disney, Star Wars, and those last couple of Marvel movies do not move, and they actually had them for a buck a piece. And I've been there 2 or 3 times in the last few weeks, and they're not moving. Nobody's still not. They're still not being bought. So anyway, 100%. This is the great thing about print. You can complain all day long about modern day comics and all these things like that. We still have the printed stuff, man, to where I can revisit these stories back when it was like pure. So, what I'm very happy to have those. I'm very sad for the people who collected the Marvel Masterworks and that it's gone. There's a lot of people trying to rationalize that. Hey, Prime One Collector is here. Great to see you. All right. Okay, guys. So I bought this off of eBay because I found a cheap, brand new copy, right? And yeah, I'm going to go ahead and say this, right? I don't think it's a big, I don't think it's a secret. And I don't think anyone, uh, I don't want to act like I'm the epiphany and I thought it out. But there's still people who watch this are still new to collecting comics and the online thing, right? But what the only real, the major reason I don't buy off of eBay anywhere near like I used to, they actually just sent me a message saying this is my 28th year with them. Is that right? 26, 28 years. Before that, I spent a year using my brother's account. So I had an account on eBay, and I've told the stories many times over the years, but it actually has been a while that during the 90s, I rarely, if ever, or up into the 2000s, in the 2000s also, we're talking like 91 up into the 2000s, I rarely actually ever used my actual paycheck, right? I would sell, trade, do that kind of thing, right? And it was so easy. It was easy. There was no work to it. Then eBay came along, and eBay used to be a way where you would see they had flea market prices on there, right? So I got the first I won the bids. Now check this out. I think it was two different sellers, maybe three, and I was able to get the first 4 or 5 issues of Mr. Miracle, Jack Kirby's Mr. Miracle. You would send out a money order, mail it, and then when they got the money order, they would mail your product back to you. It ended up being between 2 and 3 weeks, depending on your mail service, how close they were, things like that. And the total for those issues plus shipping was $5. Now shipping is between $5 and $9 for one comic and things like that. So I kind of avoid eBay as I can, but I wanted to get this. It kept popping up, and it's Grant Morrison. I'd already heard that the Marvel version of this, the one that Marvel put out, how times have changed. Usually when you had things like Spawn Batman, Image would do their version, and then the other company would do their version. Then, DC would do theirs. I also did that with some of the DC Marvel stuff, right? And a lot of the times the DC stuff was weak. It in comparison, art wise, maybe writing wise. And I actually saw a few pages of the Marvel version of this, and I had to get the DC version because it's Grant Morrison on there, right? And then I had the Sienkiewicz cover. So I got this. And yes, the shipping ended up being more than the actual book I bought. So Powder Mouse has gotten a newer book. Look at that. Batman, Deadpool, Grant Morrison. That's a Bill Sienkiewicz cover, one of many. I think this is 1Q, if you will. And I have to tell you, man, what little bit I have read, it's not just Batman, Deadpool. I think there's some short stories in here, right? But what I really liked, I got a kick out of this, is that on this channel, I have often said that I just, I love the Deadpool movies. I can watch them. I'm not into Deadpool, the comics. I have checked them out and read them. Here's my omnibus, if you will. You know what I mean? I have a Deadpool omnibus there. I've had the actual series. God, what was it? I had the mini series. My brother and I both had the first appearance. He probably still has his. Go all the way back. X-Force 2, the X-Force stuff. Oh God, was it Joe Kelly? The Joe Kelly, Ed McGuinness stuff. I've had that series twice. And I've actually, you can go back to my videos in the 2010, 11, 12, somewhere around there. I ended up selling the entire series 2 or 3 times. We'll say twice through eBay as we're speaking here, right? But one of the things I've always said is the reason I didn't get it is because when it comes to breaking the fourth wall, I absolutely have seen it before. It was with Ambush Bug. I've always felt like Deadpool got turned into a version of Ambush Bug. He's Deathstroke meets Ambush Bug. And I never meant that in a negative way. Well, what I really like about this is that Grant Morrison, a student of it, he has come up with this panel here where this page where it's all about the characters who have broke the fourth wall. Apparently Zatanna has, but we got Buddy Baker, Loki, a picture of Ambush Bug's face right there, and all that stuff. And then we have a callback to that amazing panel where we have Buddy Baker take peyote, and he turns around, figures out his comic book. He says, "I can see you." Absolutely. And She-Hulk is in there. Jennifer Walters' name. She-Hulk is in there. John Byrne's She-Hulk. She broke the fourth wall. So I absolutely loved how the student of comic books, the person who reads comic books and has done this himself, gave us a little page. And I feel like it served me very well. All you have to do is acknowledge it, then I can move on, right? So I was sort of like, I felt validated after saying that on this channel for so many years. I was like, he's just Ambush Bug. Now, did I finish the story? No. As you can see, it is not in the bag. I probably read about a page or two after that page, and I turned around and decided to whip out my Ambush Bug stuff. All right. These were given to me when I was in the hospital in 7th grade. At least one of these issues were. When I was in 7th grade, having my appendix took out, and it was such a fiasco. I ended up spending I can't remember if it was between 5 and 7 days in the hospital. I feel like it was 5, but it was probably a week. But I'll never forget this, right? Because I was a George Perez fan, right? And one of the first, this could possibly be the first Ambush Book story I ever read. But we were doing the thing. Keith Giffen is doing the thing where we have all the people reporting the news. Clark Kent was with WGHS or WGBS. Anyway, he was with the Metropolis station, reporting on the news. They go through the news, and then all of a sudden we get to the one George Perez panel amongst the Keith Giffen panel, and this cracked me up. It said, "This is Bethany Snow of WUBS TV here to force fans of George Perez and or the Teen Titans to shell out good money after bad," because this was a stunt. They put a George Perez panel in this book for completists, and I thought that was just hilarious, right? So yeah, 2-3 pages of Deadpool, I can get a chuckle. I can read freaking 4 panels of Keith Giffen Ambush Bug, and I'm laughing more. Go figure, right? So we got some people here. Let's see who has popped in here. My good friend. Oh, John is there, of course. Make sure you guys have subscribed, hit the thumbs up, share the video. That's great. What is Steel? Thank you. Yeah, those Marvel Masterworks. That is a great price for them still. Hey, Gore Vidal is here. I have your Superman email that you sent. I'm going to try to watch that today, the same Superman stuff. If you saw the beginning of the video, I've been out Christmas shopping and trying to do some things. Glad you were here for BGA, also known as Booster Gold Anonymous. Oh, Gore, man. That Booster Gold Anonymous. I feel like we need to do a show. That's what we can call our show, the Booster Gold Anonymous show. Oh, that's great. The VGA. Oh, that's great. You in your joke, Gore, to pick on me. You landed into gold in my mind. That's great. Oh no, not Deadpool. He is my Booster Gold. That's great. Deadpool meets Sleepy Reader. Deadpool meets Booster Gold. Oh my God, that would be my nightmare book. Sleepy Readers popped up in here and took a shot, and he hit right on target. Oh, this is great. Gore and Sleepy. Thank you guys. That is hilarious. Oh, Damien, good to see you. Or Deadpool and Booster Gold versus Alana of Saga. I don't have a hatred for Saga, but it did get tedious. Okay, What's up? Good to see you. Glad to see you, Sleepy. Okay, guys. So we've shown the Marvel Masterworks, the Deadpool stuff, right? So for you guys that have just popped in, I went Christmas shopping at a local mall. I was by myself. Last month we had a person put on a comic book show, and I was able to get some great Silver Age books. As a matter of fact, I still have a little stack of them that I'm trying to get around to putting up. But deals were to be made, so things I did not even was very surprised to find. So while I'm Christmas shopping, it turns out the people at the mall contacted the person who put on that show last month, apparently last minute, earlier in the week. This is a Sunday, so last week at some point. And he was able to call up a bunch of people and say, "Can you make it this weekend on short notice?" And as I was Christmas shopping, I was getting closer to that section of the mall. I saw the lights on. I saw some kid run around, and I saw 4 little comic book boxes, and I got in there, and they had 3 or 4 people selling comics. And this is that haul. I had no idea. And I'm wondering if I had just a tinge of guilt buying something for myself this close to Christmas, because I went ahead and gave my wife her one Christmas present that I bought thus far for her last night. Oh, Afro is here. Good to see you, Afro Sci-Fi. Greetings. I'm going to have to check out that crossover. So far, it's pretty good. This few pages I read. So, guys, this is what I bought, and I tell you what, if I probably spent between $12 and $15 on this stuff. Okay, so I now have, I think I have 2 complete sets of this. They're still in bags. I'm going to go through the bags and open one of these. I have sporadically apparently been picking these up since the movie came out. So we're shot a little over 30 years, I guess. But this is Roy Thomas, Mike Mignola, and this is their adaptation of the Bram Stoker Dracula, still in the bag. It was 4 issues. Mike Mignola artwork. I think this was right before he started really putting a lot of exaggeration in his work. Maybe he was in transition to this, right? But he's really started to. If you look at this stuff, World of Krypton, even his Rocket Raccoon, his earlier stuff, you'll see that it's not as exaggerated as his Hellboy stuff has become and everything like that, right? So it's just fantastic, right? So yeah, this is a bit more of your serious. I hate to say serious, but stiffer Mike Mignola, even though it's still fantastic. So I'm gonna finally read that adaptation and stuff, right? And then I don't want to go too fast through this, guys, but where's that other issue? Apparently some of these are a little bit out of order, but it's in here. So I have the first 4 issues of this book. This book is not particularly worth anything, but I have the Age of Apocalypse, the entire series, except for 2 issues of this. Age of Apocalypse, for you guys, it blows my mind that it was 30 years ago. Age of Apocalypse, after Chris Claremont left, they ended up pillaging and gutting Chris Claremont's X-Men that he spent 17 years building up, even with its dangling and unresolved plot lines that seemed like they were going to go on forever at times. They were able to gut and pillage that stuff within 3 years, I guess, or something like that. So one of the pluses that they did, one of the right things, something that I think was a success, it could have easily just been a stunt, but I think with the work they put in and the designs they did, this could have been a whole other universe. And of course, it was the 90s, was Age of Apocalypse. The whole product is that Legion, if I remember, the son of Xavier, decides to go back in time and kill Magneto, but he gets Xavier. So we had this world where Apocalypse, the villain, ended up arriving much earlier than he did in comics, is the whole product of it. And we get the X-Men in external. We get all of the X books at the time in a time and place that's very different than what we have. And they had and it was highly manga influence. I think that was a big plus of it. Even Mark Waid dabbled in there a little bit and stuff, right? But Jeff Loeb and Steve Scorsese. Steve Scorsese would go on to be famous for being the guy who worked on the movie, did the action scenes and the layouts and stuff like that for the movie, The Matrix and things like that. Oh, there it is. So these were actually kind of hard to find, even though they're not worth a lot of money. But this will complete my Age of Apocalypse set, issues 3 and 4. I went ahead and got the complete 1 and 2. So X-Man is basically Cable, Nate Gray, without the techno-organic virus. Okay, and he actually ended up surviving the Age of Apocalypse and came into the regular Marvel universe. I've found fans of this guy over the years, even though I haven't ran into them anytime recently. But I knew people that was picking up this and Cable like you wouldn't believe. The only real Cable books that I have are the ones with Ladron artwork. Ladron, very Kirby. A fusion of Kirby and Mobius with his own thing, right? So I have these. So I'm probably going to end up selling the complete set of the Age of Apocalypse. It has the Alpha, the Omega, the 4-issue miniseries that interrupted the ongoing series of Excalibur, X-Men, Amazing and Uncanny X-Men, and Wolverine, and so on. So what price would you put on it? If you had the entire set of Age of Apocalypse, what would you want to sell it for? Because that's exactly why I have these. Okay. The Deadpool, Booster Gold, and Alana saga. I tell you what, the comment section is probably better than this show right now. That's oh man, let me see here. I think you will, Gorbadal. I think you will like the Superman story I sent you. I also sent to Damien. Fantastic. I will be watching that later this afternoon. Um, Afro Sci-Fi. I love his World of Krypton. I didn't like it at the time, but I love it now. I was on board. I was on board from page one when I saw that stuff. Um, Talk about an underrated classic, World of Krypton. It's some serious sci-fi, you know, in the vein of like Larry Niven and guys like that. Afro Sci-Fi. I love X-Men. The last 12 issues were amazing. Okay, cool, man. Gore Vidal comics, off topic, but you made me think about Monica Bellucci, who was in Dracula in the Matrix. Any excuse to think about Monica Bellucci is valid. You know, did I say Belushi? Excuse me. Watched Starting Out Live all my life, man. Bellucci, right? So this one was totally for the cover. By no means, there are very few books that I would defend from the DC Comics when they went to the new 52. This is indeed one of them, right? But there was a month where all of your comic books were done in landscape, right? If you look at a regular comic book, you know, this is portrait, but if they design the cover this way, it is landscape, right? The first book that I can think of that I saw that with was a John Byrne doing a Fantastic Four comic like that back in the day, right? And I've seen panels in several magazines and things like that did landscape. But for a month, for whatever reason, we had Darwin Cook month. And almost all of the DC 52 books, at least that's what it feels like to me, we had Darwin Cook art, right? And who isn't a Darwin Cook guy? You know, even if you're not a huge fan, you end up liking his work if you look at it. You have something by Darwin Cook you probably like if you've ran across it, right? If you haven't ran across it, you're not a Darwin Cook fan because you haven't laid eyes on it, right? So I picked up several of these over the years out of dollar boxes. And here's the Superman Wonder Woman number 14. I believe they were indeed a couple in the DC 52. Okay. But totally for the Darwin Cook. I am probably going to end up framing some of these. I've picked up quite a few over the years, and I really need to go through. And luckily, I have a box of just variant covers, and hopefully, I've been putting them all in there. Darwin Cook really, thanks to his New Frontier, he really pops up with the compact comics that have been coming out, the manga-sized comics you can get for $10. His New Frontier is out there, and I've seen a whole slew of new people wishing that DC had just picked up from there. It's been fantastic. If there's a positive of the new collectors, the kids coming in, Darwin Cook apparently seems to be the man. And I'm really kind of wondering now that I'm talking to you guys and we're doing this, and and when I get here, I think about comics and my brain shifts from the real world to what we do here. That I'm really kind of wondering if these kids, I'm trying to think how old they are. I don't think they're old enough to have been around when Batman Beyond came on, the Bruce Timm stuff. So I'm really kind of wondering. It blows my mind that it was 1992, if I remember right, that Batman, the Batman cartoon, the animated series came out. And the kids I've been seeing are between probably 15 and 25. The compact comics have made them come out all over the place. Talk about a plus for actual collecting and reading. But yeah, I don't think they're old enough to have been around when the Bruce Timm animated adventures came on. I guess they could have caught the Justice League, but I'm really kind of wondering if the influence of watching those cartoons as a kid, even though they may not know Darwin Cook worked on Batman Beyond and some of those things, I wonder if that's kind of clicking in their brain. They don't realize it, you know. Here we go. Facts. Yeah, about Monica. It seems that it's easy to make you think about Monica, Gore. That's what Sleepy says. Yes, Gore. It is. It is. She is his kryptonite. The Cook sideways covers were amazing. Indeed, they were, Sleepy. They really held up. They've aged. They're timeless. You know, I mean, genius. There's nothing really in that to date this book. You know, with its style. I can't believe that she's dating Tim Burton. My lawyers are on it. Well, he's an artist. You know, he's a dark artist. You know. Okay, guys. So just to get this out of the way, when a book called Excalibur came out, if you remember back, or even if you revisit it in your mind, things got really dark there for a little bit around 86 and 87 in comics, right? Watchmen, everybody, blah, blah, blah. Watchmen came out, Dark Knight Returns came out. Everybody wanted to get grim and gritty with their characters. But the X-Men got really dark with the More Like Might Massacre, right? This was before they had the yearly events. This was really kind of the first one. They had brought back Jean Grey, right? They had Bob Layton, Butch Guice, a few people doing X Factor book, where it was kind of like Ghostbusters with mutants. They posed as mutant hunters to be able to locate mutants and bring them in and train them. Even as a kid, I was like, I got to see where this goes because that didn't make sense to me. I was 12, 13. Like, I could just imagine finding out somebody's hunting me. I was also of the mind that I wasn't a huge mutant X-Men fanboy. I just kind of gave in to reading them thanks to the Asgardian Wars by Claremont, Art Adams, Simonson, and all those guys. Yeah, the Asgardian Wars, that was what brought me in. That's when I finally just caved and became them, right? But I love the Morlock Massacre, even though it was dark. The Reavers came in, a bunch of actual mutant hunters came in, and it crossed over with all the X books and the books that those creators worked on. And there was a lot of death in there, and it was actually some of Walt Simonson's best art, in my opinion. Some of his most dynamic art in there, during a slaughter. And that actually split the X-Men collectors in half, right? A lot of people consider that the end of from Giant Size X-Men to 20210, right? Where it just got dark and they messed with Kitty Pryde. Ended up not being able to phase back. She was permanently like a kind of like a ghost. I think Colossus went into he actually killed one of the Reavers, and he ended up going into a coma, or maybe Nightcrawler was. But anyway, 3 or 4 of them were really hurt. Nightcrawler, Colossus, things like that. Angel lost his wings, which led to a year later he became Archangel with the blue skin and the razor shooting wings, razor knives, whatever you want to call them. I'm sure there's some ninja. There's probably like a ninja weapon out there. And if you actually paid attention to a lot of the art, um, long shots knives and the knives that came out of Archangel's wings looked a lot alike there for a while, right? But in the midst of all this, you had Keith Giffen's Justice League, right? It came out, it was a book that was funny. It actually was the book that went against what was going on in comics at the time, where everything had to get dark and grim and gritty and things like that. And I don't know if this book was a response to that, or if Chris Claremont just wanted to lighten things up, or editorial, or somebody did, right? But we got a book that had a sense of humor, and it was Excalibur. Kitty Pryde, Captain Britain, Megan, Rachel Phoenix, Nightcrawler, they all went over to England and ended up forming Excalibur. There's an origin story. Don't get me wrong; they just didn't throw them out there, right? And about the first 27 issues, I believe Chris Claremont stuck around on there. Alan Davis was there. He'd do 6 or 7 issues, take a break. They bring in another artist. He would come back, but they had an overarching arc, a story, the Cross Time Caper, that I think went on forever. I think it went 13 issues or something. And I've had these 2 books off and on. I don't know why. I can't stand the art in this one. I'm not going to say his name is Chris. I'm not going to say who he is. I discovered him doing a few of the Justice League books I was talking about. Apparently, he has a fan base, or he did. So I'm not going to say anything. But I think these are the last 2 parts, if not the last part of the Cross Time Caper. Those books were fantastic. There was a sense of humor to them. They were funny. Alan Davis, when the book first came out, he would have funny little pinups or things like that on the back of them. There's a cover where Captain Britain, it's like Looney Tunes. He was sitting there in the Juggernaut is walking away behind him into the sunset, and Captain Britain is laying on the ground with a Wally Cody kind of starry-eyed look on there, like he just got wiped out from one of his inventions going wrong, and he's looking all goofy because Juggernaut just stepped on him and walked off, knocked him on his ass. But anyway, I think these are the last 2 issues of the Claremont stuff that I needed, right? Number 25 and 26. I also have number 27. That crossed over with Nth Man. So yeah, this is Ron Lim that came on. A guy named Chris. I'm not going to say his name because like I'm just not a fan of his artwork at all. It's kind of cool to see that. So that's where we're at with the collecting. We're just sort of filling in the gaps. Things that I've read before. I have no idea why I don't have this book anymore. I definitely had this one. All right. Who knows where it went? This one, I'm pretty sure I didn't. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. Right. So let's see where we're at here. Oh, she broke up with him. Oh no, Gore, you got a shot. You got a shot, guys. There's the update for you guys keeping up with the Monica and Tim Burton situation. Apparently, Prime One collectors say they broke up. Okay. Sleepy Reader 666 streaming keeps a lot of cartoons alive. Been watching the Batman animated with my daughter recently. I have it here. I finally, I'm going to finally be able to finish Rocky and Bullwinkle all the way through. I've been watching a lot of the mini loves of W. Gillis. I always watch my Twilight Zones from the 60s, the 80s, Tales from the Dark Side. And I went ahead and got the Netflix so we can finish the Stranger Things. I was able to finish Cobra Kai the last few episodes. Is there anything else? Alice in Borderland has got to be one of the best TV shows I've ever seen with consistency of story. It feels like whoever wrote at least the first two seasons of Alice in Borderland. Um, it's an amazing show. You just need to watch it. It's not just gratuitous violence and death. It gets quite philosophical about what is this world teaching us. You just have to see it. I like it better than Squid Games if you're into that kind of stuff, right? What else am I watching? But the Bruce Timm stuff, I'm actually getting ready. I'm actually become over the years. I've become very forgiving of the Batman show that came out in 2006 or something, where they had a younger Bruce Wayne. Very forgiving of that show. There by season 4 and 5, I think it's a great show. That first season to me was just kind of shaky. Again, it is for kids, so that's some of the stuff I've been watching. Okay, Gore Vidal. I'm finally reading Grant Morrison's Green Lantern. Grant is sometimes hard to follow, and Liam Sharp. I think I had the same problem with character placements. There's a lot of Easter eggs in there. When you get to the part where they make it to the vampire world, I hope you know the old Hammer movie. I think it was a Hammer movie, Planet of the Vampires. The first page is full of vampires from TV shows and movies, and a little Easter egg in one panel and things like that. That's kind of how that series works and stuff, right? Okay, guys. So I ended up getting these for real cheap. Let's see if I can get them all together here. They're kind of mixed up here, but it seems like I had 5 of these. I probably have put them up. No, there's 5 here, right? So I was very surprised that A, I didn't have one of these, and B, that I was able to get these in newsstand. And now that I'm looking at them in better light than what the mall had, they're in better shape than I thought, right? But we have X-Men 148, the Uncanny X-Men 148. Dave Cockrum has returned to the series after John Byrne had left. John Byrne's probably doing Fantastic Four at this time. I think Alpha Flight may have been right around the corner. I don't know. I didn't really pick up an issue of X-Men until about 1983. So this is right before all of that. And this is flat out 1981. Excuse me. And I tell you what really kills me is if you get these books from 1881 and you look at the prices that you could have paid for some Silver Age books at the time. Let me see here. Where's Fantastic Four? That's the one that always kills me. You could have got a Conan #1 for $70 back then off of this company. So this may not be the company I was thinking of. Dazzler, Hulk, Giant Size, Fantastic Four, 41 to 47, $12 a piece. First appearance of Silver Surfer was $35. And I would say, if you were to wonder about inflation, not that you're here for that, probably to multiply it by 3. I go by, I go by food prices at the time, right? Anyway, so a lot of good stuff going on in this. Spider-Woman pops up, Dazzler pops up. Spider-Woman, I don't know if her cartoon was still on at the time. I know it came on in 1979, right? But, Dave Cockrum delivers a whole lot. I've recently read the Brood Saga in my Epic collection all the way through, even though I have sporadic issues of the X-Men that are kind of beat up and stuff. And I got to tell you, I'm not a real fan of what Claremont was doing there, right? So I think it was more this era, around 84, that the X Men started clicking for me. If I had read it straight through, like I said, the 1985 Asgardian Wars is what brought me in, right? So the fact that there was such a fandom, these X Men and Teen Titans, that they had such rabid fans is kind of amazing to me. A little bit as I've gone back and reread these with fresh eyes, right? So then Kenny X Men, this is when Freedom Force appeared. The Brotherhood of Evil Mutants has now started working for the government, and now they are Freedom Force, right? And we have the punk rock version of Storm, because she's a leader of the Morlocks now. I don't think she's lost her powers yet. And I definitely remember this this splash page. I had a friend named Jason who bought, he was into X Men, Team America, G.I. Joe. Probably, you know, and he was one of those, he was a lot like me. He actually lived with a single mom. My parents had split and we were living with my grandmother up the road from him. So we would be at his house all the time, unsupervised. And he was the first guy that blew my mind. His name was Jason, because he would take his G.I. Joe figure, take the screw out of the back, and he would assemble his own G.I. Joe figures. I never saw anything like that. You know, no blueprint for that, guys. But this is when John Romita Jr. is on here. And I tell you what, the hate that John Romita Jr. gets really surprises me. I can totally understand not liking his artwork, but hating it. The guy tells a fabulous, fabulous, listen to me. The guy he can tell a story. His panels are dynamic. He's got the angles down. You can kind of tell over the years, once you see it, you can't unsee it, but you can tell that his dad was the art director. All artwork went through his dad, John Romita Sr. And I've seen in interviews on comic book documentaries and whatnot that John Romita would sort of ask his dad. It seems like mistakes got fixed, and his dad would just shoo him through there. So you can kind of see how some inkers are a bit heavier on him in the early days, and how he really improved. I really think he hit his stride in the 90s there. I think that's when he was really accomplished. So this era of X-Men, so I'm thinking probably from 84 on are the X-Men that I can dig, probably from Paul Smith up. Now, I do have the Dark Phoenix Saga books. And, I had quite over the years. Thankfully, I've documented them on this channel going way back. But I've had X-Men 101. I've had X-Men 97. I've had Silver Age X-Men and things like that. I do have the Dark Phoenix Saga and things like that. The Byrne Austin stuff. Sorry, guys. Time has told the tale. You can love Jim Lee years, Mark Silvestri years. It's all magic. It's all good, but they really don't touch that Byrne, Claremont, Austin stuff, right? And the stuff that Claremont put out after Byrne left, Claremont, Byrne, and Austin, you can really, I don't know, man. It's just there's a lot of words in there and a lot of storytelling that's still there, and it's decent. But I think it was around this time Claremont felt like he was really comfortable. That's to me. That is my interpretation. Means nothing. Means nothing. Oh, Gore Vidal. My shop has the first 5 issues of Booster Gold by Jeff Johns. I saw them yesterday. I like Johns, but I don't find Booster Gold interesting. Worth buying them. I found them interesting. I actually have the way it's numbered with the Jeff Johns Booster Gold books is it came out after the 52. And the 52 had set up Booster Gold and a few other threads. They were building up to the next crossover and things like that. So Jeff Johns got in there and he played around with a few things with Booster Gold. That's why I find them interesting, because they were taking this character and put him in another setting. A lot of people at the time, and this is their interpretation, is they were finally setting up Booster Gold to be a real hero, and then he ended up just being dumbass Booster Gold. So you had issues 1 through 10, then you had a 1 million issue, and then you had a 0 issue. Okay, so it's 12 issues, and then they brought Chuck Dixon on for a couple issues. I've kept them. It's Jeff Johns. I like what he did. He references some stuff. If you get them for $1 a piece, I think you're all right. I can't specifically remember what was going on, but he did start getting the idea of trying to bring Ted Cord back at some point, who had died, and they were trying to use the Killing Joke. Actually, now that you're saying that, I'm going to laugh if I have this out. Oh my God, I never put it up. This is my second copy. Just get issue number 5. See if you like it. Okay, it ties in with the Killing Joke, and that kind of gives you an idea what Jeff Johns is doing with it. I would get one issue to check it out. You know, I don't know. I don't know. So yeah, and I don't like Booster Gold, but I've kept those. You know, as we know, like I have to tell anybody I don't like Booster Gold. All right, Afro Sci-Fi. I didn't start reading X-Men until Secret Wars. X-Men 195 was my first issue with Power Pack guest starring. Nice. Guys, I don't know. I've mentioned it before, but I don't know if you were here for the stream, but I picked up a few issues of Power Pack and finally actually read them, and I had to just kind of turn my head. They weren't on the newsstand, at least were in my town, right? I'm assuming they were. I don't know if they were a direct only book or not. I never really bothered to look, but they were not on the newsstand. I don't remember seeing one issue of Power Pack in any of the drugstores, any of the spinner racks at Magimart, nowhere. Grocery stores, never saw an issue, right? But I started reading a couple of issues, like the first 3 or 4. And I was like, oh no, this is actually pretty good. So I don't know how it held long term. Okay, so yeah. Um, Afro Sci-Fi, I enjoyed John Romita Jr. on New 52 Superman. I like his blocky, fat images. Um, I can't say that I looked at that, but what I did like was back in the 90s when they did the Batman Punisher crossover, and they did the proper one where it was Batman and the Punisher, not the Azrael Punisher that DC put out by Denny O'Neil or whoever put that out. I absolutely, I think it was a missed opportunity to not have John Romita Jr. on Batman. If you go back and see what he did there, I think it's, but yeah, him being on Superman, good for him, man. To me, Superman ought to be something that only the best get to work on, and he's considering how long he's been into comics. I think it's fantastic that he finally made it there. Yeah, cool. Yeah, cheap one issue, man. That's what I would do. Then we have Afro Sci-Fi. The Giffen issues were very good. A Booster. The Keith Giffen written issues of Booster Gold were good. That was my favorite DC series at the time before it was canceled by the New 52. But yeah, if Giffen, I'll see what Giffen. I wonder if I have any of those. If Giffen's on it, I'll check it out. Not everything. I don't think that as much as I love Giffen stuff, I'm rarely a fanboy of anybody. If it's not that good, I'm able to kind of call it out a little bit. So getting back to this, guys, getting back to some of these books that I got for $1 a piece. Number 2, I should have got it. It's in a box right there. I think it was about 2 years ago that there's a flea market, and it's still going. It's an active flea market 6 days out of the week. Over here, and they have people coming in and out, and they have people who are they're permanent. It's in an abandoned Magimart, and there was a kid in there, and he had a framed copy of the third appearance of Marvel Spotlight with the yellow cover. I have it over there. It's in a box over there, but he had it hanging on a wall and had like $300 on it or something. And I was able to trade him. I came home and traded him a bunch of Swamp Thing books. It was a bunch of Mark Miller books and Nancy Collins books, right? And I handed it to him, and you would have thought he had gold. And not only did he give me that issue, but he gave me Moon Knight #1 from the ongoing series and all sorts of stuff. I ended up with like 5 or 6 books of Moon Knight, right? So imagine my surprise when I see a #2 for $1, and it's a newsstand, a Bill Sienkiewicz and stuff, right? Now I'm the guy who had the first appearance of Moon Knight, Werewolf by Night #32. It was part of my stepdad's collection. He bought it off the stands. And by the 80s, it was beat up. And I got to the point I was tossing it across the room because I was tired of seeing it. And I actually sold it, I think, for $180 back in 2007 or 8, thanks to a divorce sale, if you will, right? And I'm good with that. I'm fine with that, right? Because still to this day, I don't get it. He looks cool, right? The only time I've really had a version of New Moon Knight that I wanted to actually read and see more of, ended up being in the trilogy, right in the middle of the X trilogy by Kruger and Alex Ross, if you know Earth X. I think in Universe X, the second of the trilogy, they had a version of Moon Knight where they went back. They didn't really change anything, but it turns out that Moon Knight Mark Spector actually died in the pyramid that he's pillaging, if I remember right. He actually died, and it's sort of like there was a dust or something in there that made him come back to life, like the mummies. He's actually a walking mummy, and I'm like, oh, that's great. So all of a sudden that did it for me, right? It kind of blows my mind how, if I remember right, his origin story and Metamorpho's origin story are so similar. So anyway, yeah, that was cool to see. I don't have a lot to say. The Moon Knight book, this particular book to me is where Bill Sienkiewicz was able to start really developing his style, going from a Neil Adams kind of guy to Bill Sienkiewicz. You know what I mean? The exaggeration, the H.R. Geiger feel. And I actually got to tell, I actually was able to tell the first words I ever spoke to Bill Sienkiewicz at Heroes Con was, "Your art gives me," and I interrupted him. He said hello and put his hand out. And I had to tell him that I was like, "Your art, when I look at your art, it gives me the same emotions as when I look at H.R. Geiger. And I hope you take that as a compliment." He was like, "Yes." And all of a sudden that just opened the door for this fantastic, I don't know, 30-minute talk. It was fantastic conversation, rapport, if you will. Gore Vidal, I had a brief mail subscription to Moon Knight in the Micronauts Wonderful Comics. Awesome. Fantastic. Let me see who wrote these. Yeah, Doug Munch. I was thinking Denny O'Neil or Doug Munch, but I like how it seems like a lot of the Batman guys at the time ended up working on Moon Knight also. Also, what turned me off of it was the fact that I read in the official handbook of the Marvel Universe as a kid how he seemed to have 3 different personalities. And none knew the other one. That's just not for me. That stuff I'm really not interested in. The Rose and Thorn effect, I guess. Electro Assassin Forever. Yes, absolutely. That book, I actually have to go somewhere and de-escalate from reading that. I feel like that builds up energy in me, and I have to go somewhere to let it out. Man, that book. Whoo. Okay. Now this book I got because it is from 1977, and this is kind of a wild era, a wild thing, right? I actually will run across Wonder Woman fans, and even though there wasn't a lot going on in her books, in my opinion, Wonder Woman has fans, right? As a matter of fact, before George Perez's Wonder Woman, to me, I can't think of one book I really, really have to keep or have to have, except for this one issue that I have somewhere where it's a wink and a nod to Mars Attacks. Okay, and it's around this era. It's in the 70s, right? 1970s, right? And then, of course, you had Roy Thomas and Gene Colan get a hold of her in the early 80s. You had the Huntress backup stories. I get it. There's things in there to read, right? But I couldn't pass this up because I was just buying up all these books of that era. But yeah, 227 from 1977 of Wonder Woman. I do end up reselling these for like between 10 and $15 because of the era. I'll pay $1 for them, and if I get to have a chance to put them out or find someone that doesn't, they'll I'll take a tenner for it. It blows my mind. But for me, my hero on here, the real hero for me, has got to be, oh God, I can't believe. Let me make sure. I don't know if you remember who Rick Barry is. I barely do, right? But as a kid, when I would watch basketball and boxing, when everybody else was watching football and baseball, I was into boxing and stuff like that. And Dr. J was my hero. I had a homeroom teacher, and she actually went to college in North Carolina, I believe, with Michael Jordan. So by the time Michael Jordan was hit and everybody was talking about his air that he would catch, I'm sitting here like, I've already seen this with Dr. J. So yeah, I've always sort of been there. So that's enough of that talk. The next thing we have is I keep ending up buying all of these. I actually had the entire run. I have kept certain issues that I wanted to keep. And I still have, I just sold a year or two ago the VHS tape that had the cartoon. I watched the Saturday morning cartoon that this woman, Plastic Man, some other things like that people kind of forget about. Spider Woman, right? I dug Spider Woman back in the day. I thought she was cool. I just thought I liked her costume. I got it. I thought she was very cool, right? With her bio sting and stuff like that. The series, not so much. You know what I mean? Like, now that time has gone by, you can go back and reread some of these issues, and they read much better than a lot of comics today. That's the magic of these back issues and stuff. Like, you can be very forgiving for comics and stuff, right? I believe this ran 50 issues, maybe 60. here and there. There are a few issues of Spider-Woman where there's some X-Men appearances. The daughter of Banshee pops up, a few things. Werewolf by Night pops up. Yeah, some good stuff in there. There is some good stuff in there, so we'll just kind of put it there. I think one of the silliest villains to pop up out of the Spider-Woman series was the Needle. It was this dude had a white covered mask up, and it looked like the tip of an ice cream from Dairy Queen, and I think he had one big eye, and he carried around a gigantic needle that you could thread like a sewing needle. Yeah, yeah. Even as a kid, that kind of stuff did nothing for me. And you're talking to a guy that like read Super Goofy. You know what I'm saying? All right. So these next two, I went ahead and picked this up. We were talking about Darwin Cook a minute ago. I should have put it up there. I have a full set, and I think some of the issues I have probably had a little bit of water damage over the years, but it's fine. I have the two trades that make up the New Frontier, and unfortunately, it didn't really bother me. One of them is a recovered library book that I've never gotten around to clean up. You can actually repair a lot of these books and restore them. I have never gotten around to it, right? But I do have all the issues of The New Frontier by Darwin Cook, and it blows my mind that this series came out just 21 years ago. I feel like this book came out before James Robinson's The Golden Age. I feel like it came out before Kingdom Come. No, it came out in 2004. It blows my mind. So I have the first issue here. The pages are beautiful. It looks really good. Out of everything that came out of the New Frontier, as much as we can just brag about this book, the research that Darwin Cook put in it, the detail to make it feel like the 50s and things like that. What blows my mind the most is the first couple pages of this, where we get the story of the losers landing on Dinosaur Island and the death of each of the losers, followed by Johnny Cloud. You know what I mean? I want more of that. That is one of those pages has got to be in my top 3 greatest comic book stories of all time. And it was just a prologue to the New Frontier. I actually love it. But I have to ask a question here, because I've tried to look it up online. I still haven't dug out my books. This pinup is directly out of the book, right? And I want you to see this. You see those specks of white that are on there? When you go to fill it, they're not raised. The paper has not been touched. I don't know if it's a coloring issue or a printer issue, but if anybody else has this, does your book have the white speckles on it also? There's nothing on there to make me think that this is damage. It feels like the cover, it's not raised. The cover isn't grainy in the spots where the white is there. I don't know. I was wondering if it was an effect to make it look like an old magazine, or if it's a printer issue. I don't know. All right, Sleepy Reader. It's nice to imagine a whole line of DC comics based on the New Frontier and its aesthetic. Yeah, that would have been fantastic. In my mind, my first gut reaction to reading that is that would be fantastic. I'd like to see a 3 to 5 year plan where it has a beginning, a middle, and an end, so it never loses that magic. I feel like it's one of those line of comics where here's where we're at and here's where we're going. That would be very cool. Oh man. So this one, this officially gives me, I can't remember if it's 2 sets or 3 sets, plus I have the hardcover, right? So I mentioned earlier, going by memory, talking about the More Like Massacre, the comics every year starting to cross over, regularly. That used to be the Avengers Defenders, there were still people talking about how magic that was when they crossed over, back in the 70s, right? Crossovers were rare. And there was a time where it was exciting to have a hero pop up in another book. That's how rare it was, right? And then all of a sudden we started having crossovers quite a bit. And strangely enough, this square bound edition actually hit one of the newsstands in town. And this was at a time where we're talking about Mike Mignola again, that I was actually kind of a little bit tired of seeing his work because it was so repetitive. I feel like he was drawing the same thing over and over that I saw. So even though I loved his world of Krypton and I was into his stuff like that, it was the repetition of what he was drawing. If you go back and look at that stuff, I kind of think you'd agree to me. But then all of a sudden, this was a 4-issue series, and in the first issue of it, it had Batman, Superman, Starfire, James Stewart, Green Lantern, oh God, who am I forgetting? Bug or something on it. But it had these random heroes, and I'm like, oh man, now we're getting into cash grabs. You know what I mean? I think around this time or something, just to give you an idea that everything was kind of crossing over. We had Craven. You had to buy a book a week to buy the Craven story. In Spider-Man, the Craven Hunt, Craven's Last Hunt. There's a lot of things going on to where there was more crossovers and you had other books to buy, and it actually was like getting to be a pain. So when I saw this, I kind of thought it was a cash grab. Somewhere before 1990 or not, before I graduated high school, I ended up reading this, and I'm like, I could have slapped myself. It was a epiphany where I was just sort of like, this is a masterpiece. This is fantastic. This is what they need to be putting out all the time, right? But anyway, it was the Cosmic Odyssey, Jim Starlin, Mike Mignola. This is number 3. I love my Kirby characters, so to see Darkseid have the demon chained like a freaking dog, um, it's right up my alley. This is the issue that made me turn around and read this book. I think one of my friends had it. So this gives me, I don't know, either my second or third complete set. It was for $1 to get there. I picked these up as they go out. I had several number ones. I'd always pick up a number one no matter what because it was in dollar boxes for years. And I think they still are, which blows my mind. But I'll take this and I will end up giving away the number one for free to certain people that I know actually read comics and may be interested, and never had one returned, and they ended up loving the series. That's been over the years and stuff, right? Cosmic Odyssey, check it out, right? And the last one, I mentioned way at the beginning of this about going to Walden Books, and my first alternative comic of the 80s was when I bought Elementals Volume 2, Number 3. I still have the book and stuff like that out of Walden Books. And that's when they called them alternative comic books. And thanks to ads in the comics and maybe a comic scene or whatever it was, whatever little magazine would pop up about comic book news, I would read about these other comic books out there with adult themes, and they were so forbidden. They looked so weird, so odd, so different. And as I'm saying this, I will never forget when I saw a black and white advertisement using the first issue of Love and Rockets. Uh, they all look like the usual suspects. If I remember right, they look like they were on a lineup for the police or something like that. In my mind, going way back. And that's one of those images that always stuck out in my head. So this was another one that I would see here and there and stuff and be infatuated with it. Now, over the years, I've ended up getting the image trades and some of the actual images, actual comics and stuff, right? But it's Matt Wagner, the Hero Discovered Mage, the first miniseries, number 14. And to me, this is everything that I had imagined when it comes to themes and the way they were handled and stuff to what an alternative comic was before they called them indie comics or creator owned. They were called alternative comics, guys. I love that term so much better. There's a mystique for me, as a kid, 12, 13, 14 years old, seeing the epic comic line. They were part of that in my mind with Moon Shadow and the things I would see that you just couldn't get on spinner racks. Of course, it'd be around 88 or 89 before I actually made it to a comic book shop, and it's still there in Bristol, Virginia/Tennessee on the state line. So yeah, this stuff here just sort of just does it. And to me, there's something very pure about this, right? Now, Matt Wagner put himself in the book as Kevin Matchstick. This is all about our legends in real life. This is sort of a reincarnation of King Arthur, and Excalibur is a bat, and there's always a mage sitting there to kind of be an oracle for him, or we're going to call it. He would meet other people, other heroes who are reincarnated legends of our time. That kind of stuff, man. But the art is raw. The superhero does not look like a superhero. He balds as Matt Wagner has balded over the years. It went balding. He ages in real time. And this was a trilogy that took forever to come out. I'm yet to finally read the last one all the way through. So yeah, I pick those up when I find them. I'm not real worried about reselling them. And like, for you guys that have popped in and haven't been here for a while, I am shrinking my slowly shrinking my collection. And I totally realize that around here I may have a hard time really selling those. You know, if a lot of people are getting on YouTube and online trying to find the prices and the hot books and stuff, they're really going to be overlooking some great comic book history here, in my opinion, and stuff, right? It's really innovative and original storytelling is what it feels like. I mean, I can feel the influences. Don't get me wrong. You know what I'm saying? They're there, but to watch that, it's just fantastic. What do we got there? Okay, here we go. All right, guys, let's do some comments. Make sure you have subscribed and that you have liked it. And make sure you share it if you get a chance. I appreciate that. Oh, yeah. Okay, so going back to what we're talking about, a Darwin Cook line of inspired line of comics coming out of the New Frontier. Gore Vidal stuck in there doing Steve Root art. That would be fantastic. The speckles on the back of that, maybe on purpose of that pinup. That's what I'm thinking. It just looks really odd. So I hope that's true. Thank you. Craven's Last Hunt was so good by Tim Merritt. Tim Merritt, there's a name from the past, and you popped up in a comment section a week or two ago in my stuff. Great to see you, Tim. Tim was a regular YouTuber back in the day, guys. Great to see you, Tim. You didn't interrupt anything, man. Jump right in there. Jump right back in. Oh, we're getting hold on, guys. We're getting an ad, but we don't need. There we go. See, I enjoyed. We have Afro Sci-Fi. I enjoyed Elementals. There was a Kickstarter for an Elemental comic a year ago. Did you ever read Justice Machine? I have the. I'm 99% sure the only Justice Machine I have is the annual that has the Elementals' first appearance through a company out of Texas or something. Catching me off guard here, man. But no, I haven't really checked out the Justice Machine. It's just the opportunity was just never really there. Mage was magic for me at the time. The Mage book, that those colors and even the advertisement for that first issue and things, God, that just reeks the 80s in a good way. Absolutely love it. And yeah, that has. I remember it had a maybe it was Steve Olaf. Maybe Steve Olaf did the colors, but it had that neon green that was famous in the 80s. You know what I mean? Applied to it with the blacks and the whites. It was perfect. Mage was, yeah, Gore Vidal. Mage was matched for the time. Sleepy Reader, great point. Mage did seem like an ideal indie at the time. Yeah. Yeah. In my mind, that's what I expected. That was, you know what I mean? Like in my, yeah, I've already said it. You got it. Yeah. Tim, speaking of Mage, how are you? Yeah, Tim Merritt, how you doing, brother? He's good. He's doing better. Good to see you. Jackson Roykirk popped up. Good to see you. Gore Vidal, the two Tims. That's right. See, Tim, I'm glad you interrupted, man. Tim Merritt and Sleepy responsible for me being on YouTube. There you go. Good to see. Hey, Jackson, what's going on? Okay, guys. Thanks for everybody that has popped in here. Make sure you are subscribed. Make sure you have a thumbs up. As always, I may do a second show later this evening. I don't know. We'll see how things work out. It's all about time, guys. It's all about time. So definitely leave some comments. Leave a thumb up. Thanks for everybody that's popped in here. I always love just sitting here, slowing down, having the day just slow down. All right. Smelling the comics, talking about comics, showing them one at a time, and seeing what we all remember and what we all come up with. Right. So just remember, guys, we're all in this together. Make sure you read your comics and be excellent to each other. And it's great to see a bunch of the OGs pop back up in here today. I can't believe I said OG. I can't believe I said that. But anyway, later. And it's all about Monica. Gore Vidal, once again, giving us our quote of the day to end the show. No, it's all about Monica. That's right. Later, guys.